There's a cost to Trump and his desire to end the war quickly in that agenda. Because, as he said rightly, 2 or 3 days into his second presidency, Putin's the obstacle. By making this broader, he was saying to Putin, this is not necessarily my highest priority. And if Putin is the obstacle, which he is, Trump needs to make clear it is his highest priority by giving the proper disincentives for Putin to continue the war.
Ну, тобто, на жаль, президент Трамп з великою повагою до нього відносимося як до лідера народу, який ми дуже поважаємо, американський народ, який нас постійно підтримує. На жаль, живе в цьому дезінформаційному просторі.
We have yet to hear something from Trump, and now I'm talking about not just in the last few weeks, but even going back last year, where he clearly states that Russia is an aggressor and Ukraine is the victim. We just haven't heard that. So in that sense, the statements we're hearing now reflect a similar avoiding of some very clear realities. And while democracy is not perfect in Ukraine, it is democracy, whereas there's no democracy in Russia. So that makes Trump calling Zelensky a dictator rather fatuous if he's saying nothing about the strong man in Moscow. But the nastiness of these personal exchanges, well, we know that Trump has long had a penchant for labeling other figures internationally, nationally in the United States with colorful names and insulting names, right? And we know that Trump doesn't like to give someone else the last word. And Zelensky, who's really fast on his feet, is also used to not being insulted or in some way attacked without responding. And in the case of Trump, that just makes him madder, and his rhetoric becomes more hyperbolic.
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, or essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
This is not the most colorful, but it is probably the most damaging thing that the Trump team has said. Because no one in Ukraine, none of the opposition leaders want elections. By Ukraine's constitution, you can't have elections in wartime. The international IFES, which is the International Agency regarding election integrity, says having an election in Ukraine during wartime is nuts.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the president with us.
He said, I don't know, 8 or 10 weeks ago, I'm not going to throw Ukraine to the wolves. Now, that doesn't mean he won't, but I think we've seen a pretty clear indication over the months, ever since Trump okayed the aid package to Ukraine in April of last year, that is not Trump's intention. Now, he's mercurial. He could change his mind. I think there are people around him who don't understand how important it is to American interest that Putin not win his war in Ukraine and take over the country effectively, which is what would happen if we simply stopped aid to Ukraine. But Trump, I think, understands that it would be very bad for the United States and very bad for him personally if he brokered a deal which allowed Putin ultimately to take control of the country.
Вообще не разговаривал более 4 лет, и я готов к этому, конечно, в любое время.
Look, Zelensky is the leader of a country under vicious attack by a much more powerful country. And they are fighting for their lives, literally. And they've been able to do very well because they've had substantial support from the United States, from Europe, and from others. Given some of the statements coming from, I would say, Trump's entourage as opposed to Trump himself, I understand their skittishness about ongoing support with the new president. Although I've given you reasons to think that I think this is probably going to happen. They're going to continue to get that support. Uh, so when these talks, the first real talks with Russia occur, and Ukraine's not there, I understand their nervousness. But I think they may have been overly excited about this. And I don't think that the commentary has been helpful to their own position. So I think the best news of the past 7 days has been the sudden attention of major European nations to need to put together that peacekeeping force that Trump talks about. Trump was pleased by the fact that you had these two meetings now in Western Europe to make progress on this. But this issue was nowhere 2 weeks ago. And now it is somewhere. I mean, obviously, it's just a start, but it's a very good start.